Hello, welcome to this video. In this video, we are going to create an app in Flutter to navigate through different screens or pages of an app. Now we will write code for creating different screen in our app and navigate through this different screen in our app. So as usual, we'll start with material app in run app function, which commonly has home property. But this time we are not going to use this home property because we are not using only home screen. We have to use multiple screen. So there is another property that is called routes. Routes is the property in which we can give routes or the path for the different screen. So for that we'll have to create one folder under our lib folder by clicking on lib. Right click on lib, we'll create new and select directory. So new folder is created, we'll give name it as classes. So this classes folder will store different pages. So we'll right click on classes and new and select dart file. See, this dart file is a file which will store class for one screen. So like that we can create multiple class file or dart file under our classes folder. So for example, this is one dart. So we'll give it create one more dart file under classes folder, name it as 2. For example, create one more dart file under classes, name it as 3. So these 3 screens are or files are created through which we will navigate. So in the main dart we'll write use root, that is the base first root where we can start with by default. So we should have a home root that will start with home screen, which will allow us to navigate through these 3 pages or 3 screens. So again we'll have to create one more dart file and we'll name it as a home, which will store home class. So we'll copy this first line of main.dart and paste in all dart files, because we'll have to import all material design in each of the dart file. We'll have to create screen or design the screen accordingly. Now we'll come back to our main.dart. Now in main.dart that we have written home, we write code for home.dart. In home.dart we create a stateful class with name as home, which has state method, home state method, and in return we have container, we replace it with scaffold widget, and we create app bar with title. Now we come back to home screen, and in route we pass function, we call function that will take context as a parameter, and it itself call home class, because we have to call constructor of a home, which just now we created in home.dart file. Now we have to exclusively import that file in our main.dart. So we'll have to mention import and path of the one dot home dot file, home dot, so that error will go. Now once you execute this code, home class will be called and the home page or home screen will be displayed. Now we don't have to include that whole path, packages colon navigation. We'll remove that one. Now we'll write code for body of main home screen. So using center widget, we'll create one button as a child of center, elevated button, which will have two properties: on pressed, which will have blank function currently, and text as a child property, on which press for 1 as a text on the button. When you run this code, button is created on home screen, and if you press that button, it should navigate through the different screen. So to navigate to another screen, we have to write code in on press function. So for navigation, navigator dot push named function is used, which has two parameter: context, that is the context on which you want to jump, and the root name. Now for root name, in main file, again we'll have under routes, we'll have to mention or create the root slash, for example 1 colon function, it calls function with context as a parameter, arrow, and the constructor of class of that file which you want to call. For example, one dot file. In this we have to create one class with name 1, and in the return of build function we copy code of scaffold, that is app bar code, from home screen or home file to the one dot file and make changes accordingly. For example, title as a screen 1, so this will create app bar for one screen number 1. When then we come back to main function, where we'll mention one constructor 1. It shows error, so we'll have to import this file into main dot, that is import classes slash one dot. Now we have to mention that root we have to create it in main dot file in the navigator dot push name function as a other parameter, in quotation, single quotation slash, and the name that is available in the under routes as a slash 1. So we mention it in the function and run the code. It will now, when you press button on home screen, it will take you to the screen 1, that is, and it has back arrow. When you press that back arrow, you will come back to home screen. Now from one screen 1 you want to jump to other screen, so we'll have to write code under body property of one dot file. It should have the same code, so that will jump to 2. In one.dart file, we make changes. We change background color of app bar so that it can identify different page or different screen. In two.dart, we create stateful class and name it as 2. In return of 2, we copy code from one.dart, that is scaffold code, and paste it in the return in place of container and make changes accordingly. For example, title to screen 2 and background color of the title. Now we'll write code for body of 2, body of 1, which is similar to home. So we created button, elevated button under center widget, and in onTrust function similar to home.dart, we'll have to write navigator dot pushed name, because we have to navigate to screen 2. So there are two parameters, context and root name. Now root name, we have to create root for function or 2.dart file. So in main.dart, we create root /2 colon context arrow and name of the constructor present in 2.dart file, that is 2 with parenthesis. But we have to import 2.dart at the beginning of main.dart. Now from in one.dart, we have to mention that root or path, that is /2 in navigator dot push name function. So these are the three roots have been created: home, 1 and 2. So if you run this one, button in home screen, when you press it, it will take you to screen 1, and button in screen 1, it will take you to screen 2. Back arrow from 2 will come back to 1, and back arrow from 1 will come back to home screen. To write code of body in Dart 2, we copy code from Dart 1 and paste it after app bar as a body code and make changes accordingly, that is changes in navigator function and text of button as 3 and change back color of button. In main.dart, we'll have to create one more root under routes, that is /3, context, and it will call arrow function, that is the name of class. Now it is from 3 dot dot, currently it is blank. In 2 dot dot we'll have to mention other parameter of navigator dot push named, that is /3. Now in 3 dot dot we will create class with name 3 and mention it in the main.dart file in front of root 3 /3. Now we'll write code for app bar in 3 dot file. We copy and pasted same code and make the changes. When you run this code, it will show home screen with button on it. So by default our app will land on home screen, and when you press button you will land on screen 1, which will have press for 2 button. When you press that button you will land on screen 2, that is another, again it has 1 button. When you press that button you will on a screen 3, and when you keep on pressing back buttons you will come back to respective screens of the app.